And Nasha, is it important for the media to be careful not to represent communities as one big monolith, one huge, broad community?
Absolutely, because I mean we're seeing that with things like the Asian community. You know, the tendency to represent the Chinese community in Australia as one monolithic entity. It's the same thing that happened with the Muslim community or other Muslim communities. But just going on the question that was being addressed by Christine in terms of you know,
First and right.
Yeah, being first and being right. There is a news organisation, which I won't name, but which half the room will absolutely know who I'm referring to. This news organisation was hemorrhaging money. Right? It was hemorrhaging money, so it decided to outsource its sub-editors. Right? And when we talk about these sorts of mistakes in terms of being wrong, being first but being wrong, some of these mistakes have serious, serious consequences. And this particular news organisation had made a similar mistake before. I've got to apologise to my current student who's in the room tonight. She's an up-and-coming reporter. I've told this story in class many, many times, so I apologise to this student for repeating this story. A couple of years ago, this particular news organisation got into trouble for confusing Waleed Ali with Nazim Hussain. Okay, so that was a silly mistake, right? And I suspect that confusion had something to do with both file naming conventions, right? File naming conventions, but also just the fact that they are struggling because, as Steve has said, you know, when the COVID, you know, when the second wave of COVID hit Melbourne, I was watching a Channel 7 reporter and she looked terrified. It was the first time she'd set foot in Broadmeadows, you know, in her whole life. And so, and part of the reason the situation that Steve describes happens, it's partly not the media's fault. Okay, it's partly not the media's fault. A lot of these communities, for entirely valid reasons, they don't want their kids, right? Particularly first generation, second generation migrants, they don't see the media as a viable career path, right? So I teach a cohort which is dominated by sports journalists. Okay, we're the only university in all of Victoria that offers a sports journalism course. And this is neither good nor bad, it is what it is. Most of my students are white males. That's the market for that course. Right? Just simply because even if, when Steve was running Today Tonight, even if he wanted to hire a reporter from a culturally and linguistically diverse background, well, not just they wouldn't let him, but how many would apply, you know, to work at Channel 7, right, for valid reasons. Other reasons might be that they come from families that have escaped quite severe sort of socioeconomic circumstances. They come here, they rely on the old, you know, education being a surefire way to progress in society economically. And so their kids they all become doctors, right? They all become engineers. They're far safer, right? Much safer career path. And also within their community. It's like when I studied journalism at RMIT, immediately my parents were asked, why are you letting her do that? Right? Why are you letting her do that? And I would get people asking me, but do you like jostle with men outside courts? Because that's what in the courts, this is what a reporter does. And I had to explain that no, I worked in radio, most of my interviews are on the phone, you know, and so in terms of whether it's best to be right or whether it's best to be, so the mistake that this news organisation made in mistaking outsourcing the subs, they mistook Nazim Hussain for Waleed Ali. That's a silly mistake, right? They made another mistake, which was far more serious. So there was this young kid who shot up a police station in the southeast.